Welcome to Founder Focus, where we dive into the inside stories behind some of the most impressive entrepreneurial journeys. Founder Focus takes us on an intimate conversation with innovators and entrepreneurs and the great companies they built. This is Steve Greenfield from Automotive Ventures. Thanks for joining us. This week's guest is Brian Reed, who has had multiple successes as an entrepreneur. Since 2009, Brian has focused on solving problems in the automotive technology space. This earned him J.D. Power Associates Pioneer of the Internet in 2006 for establishing auto finance on the Internet. Brian started an internet auto loans business within Daimler-Benz that merged with competitor People First and was ultimately sold to Capital One Auto Finance. He was also an early board member at Zag, which became TrueCar. He was a founding CEO of PriceLock, providing fuel hedging services for businesses and consumers. And most recently was the co-founder and CEO of F&I Express, the market leader in digitizing automotive insurance product data. Brian sold F&I Express to Cox Automotive in 2018. In addition to founding Digital Auto Advisors, Brian is an advisor and board member to several automotive technology organizations and an early-stage investor in great new ideas in the automotive and financial services space. Brian, so tell us a little bit about why you started the company. What was the spark that ignited the idea?
Well, I started in the automotive financial services business in the early 80s. And through most of my career, I was always fixing problems or starting something new. Of course, in the early stages, you really don't have much capital, personal capital to go out and do something on your own. So I figured out that if I worked for a big corporation, I could do a lot of things to help them start businesses. So I was more of an intrapreneur than an entrepreneur. And so within Mercedes-Benz, I went out and started an internet auto finance business, started an indirect auto finance business. And through starting businesses with some of these bigger corporations, I said I need to go out and do something on my own. So in 2008, I'd had a discussion with a couple of friends of mine from Advent Resources, Tim Gill and Cedro Salinas, about doing something on my own. They had been working on a product to make the process of generating protection products for dealers much easier after a car has been sold. In the automotive industry, those F&I products are known as finance and insurance products. They started building a platform, but it stopped and really not sure where to go with it. So after a lot of discussions, we decided we'd become partners and started a company called Intersection Technologies, or better known in the industry as F&I Express, with the F&I standing for finance and insurance. We started building the platform right at the peak of the Great Recession, where in hindsight was really a good time because it gave us a lot of time to focus on going out and building the product versus immediately generating revenue, since half the dealerships in the United States were shut down. We started growing the business. We bootstrapped the business on our own. Over a period of time, I continued to inject more capital in the business, became the majority owner of the business. But the whole concept and vision of the company was recognizing that one day, everything in the finance and insurance office at dealerships would become electronic. And number two, at some point in the future, more of these finance and insurance products would be offered online. If you're going to do that, you had to have electronic connectivity. So a business that's not real sexy by itself, we went out and started integrating all these different companies that provide these products to dealerships for things such as vehicle service contracts, tire and wheel, Gap. And they were all being done in a very old method at the dealerships. Dealerships were preparing these contracts on pre-printed 5-ply forms that then be sent in manually via Federal Express at the end of the month to these different companies to be put on their books. We went out and integrated the industry to the platform. Over a course of the 10-year history of the company, we integrated with over 175 different companies. Oh, wow. It made an easier process for the dealers to prepare these contracts electronically while they're in the dealership, as well as providing this information to different companies who were online presenting dealers, finance and insurance products online to customers.
Exciting, exciting. Well, thanks for that recap. So, Brian, there's debate, with startups whether you're born an entrepreneur or you become an entrepreneur later in life. When did you know that being an entrepreneur and that path was right for you?
Really a good question. And it wasn't like I woke up one day and said I wanted to build my own business. It happened over a period of time, starting working for corporations. One of my mentors at Mercedes-Benz was George Bauer, and he always encouraged me to come up with new ideas and gave me a lot of freedom to either start something or go out and buy some businesses. I learned a lot under George Bauer, and over a period of time, I recognized that this is something I wanted to do. I wanted to have my own business and grow my own business. So over a course of about 5 years, I prepared myself through different ventures to go out and start something on my own. So in 2008, when started Intersection Technologies, it was pretty much of a natural, even though it was scary at the time.
Sure. Yeah, it seems like we romanticize startups and entrepreneurs in America, but it's also not an easy road at times. What was the hardest decision you ever had to make as an entrepreneur?
One of the hardest decisions to make was when we sold the company. And we had a lot of success with the company. Over the 3 years before we sold the company, we had doubled the business each time. And over the course of doubling the business for 3 straight years, we developed a very good revenue base as well as being very profitable. When it came time to start talking about selling the company, we had a lot of debate internally with our board and a few of the major investors about whether this was the right time to sell or not. We had a great offer on the table from Cox Automotive, who had been a early stage investor in the company. And we had to make the decision, do we hold on to the company and continue to grow it with the hopes of higher selling price later on, or do we go ahead and sell it? We finally made the decision after a lot of discussions that selling the company made a lot of sense, recognizing that over the past 10 years, the economy had been pretty good from starting very low to really growing in 2018. No big events that impact the automotive business after the Great Recession. And we knew that at some point in time, some other events or the economy would have an impact on the business. We were all very happy with the selling price. In fact, if you would have gone back to the early days and talked to my co-founders as well as some of the early investors who were friends and said, what would you expect the company to sell for? The number that we ultimately got for the company was much higher than anyone thought. So we made the decision to sell the company. It was bittersweet. It had been my life for 10 years. I really enjoyed what I was doing, but yet at the same time, it was the end of that journey and what I was doing in starting up the business.
Great. So let's turn the table now and talk about sort of the highlights. I would imagine being an entrepreneur is very rewarding in a lot of ways, but what's your absolute highlight of your time as an entrepreneur?
So we first time we went out and raised the money, we did it with friends and family, as well as a small strategic investor. And these are all people who put money in the company because they said, Brian, we believe in you. And that was in 2013, 2012, 2013. At this point in time, we believed in the vision of the company. We had some traction. We had a long ways to go to really grow the company. And these people were putting money in the company saying they trusted me. Right. Over the course of the next few years, my goal was to always make sure we could bring good return to those shareholders. But at the same time, I had to recognize that we had a lot of work to do. And I'd wake up sleepless at night, afraid that I'd have to make a phone call to some of these friends who put money in the business and tell them, sorry, you guys, you lost your money and your investment in the company.
So looking back, any regrets that you had during your entrepreneurial journey?
No regrets. I can tell you over the years, there were sleepless nights where I was worried about one thing or another in the business, but really the journey was the best part of starting the business. The destination was great financially, the journey on how we got there was something I really enjoyed and would recommend it highly to other people.
And so what do you do in your spare time now, and what do you expect to do next?
So after I sold the company, my wife and I moved up to Colorado. We live in Parker, Colorado, and have started a small business, a consulting business called Digital Auto Advisors, where we work consulting and advising different automotive tech companies. I am involved in a nonprofit organization on a board called Pure Water for the World. I have started with a couple other people from Denver, a group called the Colorado Digital Automotive Club to promote networking within the Colorado automotive tech space, as well as to help promote technology and automotive technology outside of Colorado, letting people know how many great companies there are here, and it's a great place to do business.
That's great. Well, I'll wrap with one final question for you. So I imagine there's a lot of folks who are dialing in today who either want to be entrepreneurs or maybe early in their journey. What's the best piece of advice you ever got or you can give to our audience in terms of being an entrepreneur?
Advice is be driven by what motivates you the most. One of my biggest motivators was the fear of failure. Did not want to fail, but always use that as a motivator to help grow the business and make sure it was successful.
That's great. Well, thanks, Brian, for making time for us today. It's very enlightening to hear about your entrepreneurial path, and we appreciate you making time.
All right, thank you very much.